The youth movement continues at Lebanon Valley. Kozlowski pulls an upset victory at Albany-Saratoga. We take the white flag with one of the up-and-coming drivers on the Super Dirt Car Series. It may be championship weekend, but we ain't even close to done. Race Pro Weekly. Welcome to another edition of Race Pro Weekly. I'm your host, Mike Warren. With just 2 races remaining at the Lebanon Valley Speedway, Brett Hearn and J.R. Hefner are now only separated by 4 points. With J.R. he able to pad the lead on the jet? Kyle Armstrong and Mike King would lead the field to the green in the 30-lap modified feature at the Lebanon Valley Speedway as Armstrong would grab the early advantage. Brian Berger in the 115B machine would be out there as well. Donnie Corellis would bring out the caution on lap number 1 as he would spin in turn number 2. And off of the restart, it would be the 11A of Armstrong taking the advantage once again. Cars would be on the move. You see Berger going to the outside of Matt Papello for the number 3 spot. All this behind Mike King as Papello dove underneath. J.R. Hefner, your current high point man going into this event, on the move as well as he'd move to the outside of Kenny Tremont and Keith Flack, and he was on the move. He tried to look to get by, and here comes Brett Hearn as well as he would be on the move trying to take points away from Hefner. Berger would duck to the inside, now looking for the number 2 spot on Papello as they come through turn number 3 and 4 once again. Now Hefner would crack the top 5. He would go to the inside of Robbie Pitcher for position and continue to go to work. But here comes Brett Hearn to the inside of Hefner trying to make this one a race. He'd move to the inside as they're side by side for the position. Then Hearn would use a move to the inside in turn number 3 and look to slide up in front of Hefner, and he would take that spot away, picking up 2 points on him if the race would finish here. However, Hearn would not be done. He would slide by Brian Berger on the outside lane. And at the front of the field, Kyle Armstrong, however, would get his first career win at the Valley of Speed as he takes the checkered flag. Kyle Armstrong grabs the victory. Matt Papello would come home second, Brett Hearn finishing third, Brian Berger fourth, and J.R. Hefner fifth. This sets up a big battle on Labor Day weekend as Brett Hearn and J.R. Hefner are tied for the points lead. Making another trip to Central New York, and Billy Decker. Well, you can definitely call him the Franklin Flyer after that one. He would be okay after that tough wreck in the heat race. Green flag will come out in the modified feature event. It would be Matt Holsizer with the early advantage. He would take the lead off at turn number 2. Tim Sears Jr. would be on the move early in the event, along with the ex of Chad Phelps as well, as they would try to make their way towards the front of the field. Tim Sears Jr. now trying to grab the race lead away from the 55 of Matt Holsizer down the back straightaway, but Holsizer just too fast for the time being. Cars would be on the move as Tom Sears would go around. That would also collect Ryan Phelps and Chuck Bauer up in turn number 2, bringing out the caution. Off of the restart, Chad Phelps going to dive down to the inside and look to take the race lead away as he would go to the inside, try to get by Holsizer. And now Robbie Bellinger would make his way up and take the best advantage off the restart as he'd slide in front of Holsizer and take the race lead away. However, Robbie Bellinger would have trouble as a right rear flat tire on the 8R machine would take the lead away from him, and off the restart, Chad Phelps would move to the inside and look to take the spot away from Holsizer, and he would do it. It would show that X marks the spot at Fulton as Phelps takes the win. Chad Phelps grabs the victory. Billy Decker, yes, you read that, Billy Decker finishing in second. Jimmy Phelps finishing third, Pat Ward fourth, and Tim Sears Jr. would round out the top 5. We head back to the confines of Orange County Fair Speedway, and boy did sportsman Seth Bacella have a ride up in turn number 1 and 2. We've seen a lot of calamity up there in those corners so far this season. Meanwhile, the modified feature event, it would be Chris Whitehead and Mike Rickey on the front row of this one as Whitehead would take the early advantage as cars would be on the move on the hard clay here in the early going. Donnie Wilson would get a little out of shape off of turn number 4. He would hit the outside Jersey barrier after contact with Chuck McKee, sending him to the inside as that would end his night in the number 7 machine. Meanwhile, off the restart, Tim Heinley would be on the move in that number 1 machine, and now Chris Whitehead would look to go to work on the inside, but here comes Chris Schultz moving to the outside. He'd look to take the number 2 spot away, and then he'd go around Mike Ricky and take the race lead away up into turn number 1 and 2. Heinley would then look to go to work on Mike Ricky for the number 2 spot as he would try to power to the inside. Then he'd switch lanes, go to the outside, and he would find the horsepower he needed to move into the number 2 spot. However, this was all behind Chris Schultz as he would pick up the win down in Orange County. Chris Schultz picking up the victory. Tim Heinley coming home in second, Jerry Higbee third, Tommy Meyer fourth, and Mike Ricky would round out the top 5.
Not just Dirt Week, the Napa Auto Parts Super Dirt Week. Racing's biggest party is coming. October 8th through 12th at the New York State Fairgrounds. Friday night, racing under the lights. Saturday, the Silver Crown Series takes on the Moody Mile. Sunday's 200-lap Super Dirt Car Big Block Modifieds. 5 days, over 100 race cars, thousands of laps. Get your tickets and event information now at SuperDirtWeekOnline.com. This is one party you won't want to miss. Napa Auto Parts Super Dirt Week. October 8th through 12th. There's only one Super Dirt Week.
There's only one place in the capital region for you to get the full racing action. Stop down at the Bobco video booth at the track or call 518-399-0937. Bobco Racing Video, the next best thing to being there. While a stranglehold on the point standings may be in effect since mid-season from Brett Hearn at Albany-Saratoga, there have still been many great races at the Speedway. Would this one be any different? Track promoter Lyle DeVore doing a little bit of bidding and talking to a few drivers about the racetrack. Meanwhile, we head to the modified feature as Mike Perotti would grab the early race lead in the Adirondack Auto car number 35 machine. The BBL Company's car number 14G of Brian Gleason on the move in the early going. Neil Stratton as well as he would go to the inside of Rich Ronca for position. Here at the start of this feature, Brian Gleason with a great move on the outside lanes. He would go right around Ronca and Mark Kozlowski for position, then get back into the number 2 spot as he would take it away from the 87 of Neil Stratton. A couple cars on the move. Last week's winner, Kenny Tremont, and your current high point man, the Jersey Jet, Brett Hearn, fighting for position along with Matt DiLorenzo and Peter Britton as well. Now Mark Kozlowski would look to make his way up through the field. Makes a little bit of contact with Brian Gleason going through turn number 3 and 4. He'd take the number 2 spot away, and then Kozlowski will continue to work it on the inside lane in that Morris Auto Group sponsored entry. He goes side by side with Perotti and take the race lead down the back straightaway. Caution would come out for the 41 of Chris Busta, and that would mean Brett Hearn would start to mount a charge. Hearn would crack the top 5 as he go right by the 2 RJ and 14G machine up in turn number 1 and 2. Then he'd waste no more time getting by the 35 of Mike Perotti off of turn number 4. Hearn desperately trying to cut down the deficit between him and Kozlowski, but he would run out of time as Mark Kozlowski would pick up his first win of the season. Art Kozlowski grabs his second career win on the Malta Oval. Brett Hearn would finish in second, Mike Perotti third, Ronnie Johnson fourth, and Brian Gleason rounding out the top 5. Pro stock feature would get things moving at the Lebanon Valley Speedway as Chuck Towsley would be your pole sitter in this event. As you see a good look at Milo Campbell on the in-car. Look how he wheels the steering wheel around as we get back to the racing action now. However, Chad Arsenal would look to make a bid on the 29 of Ricky Duzlak as they make their way down the front straightaway as Duzlak would have the lead. Arsenal would slip to the inside, but then he would go around in turn number 2 as that would bring out the caution. Off of the restart, Chuck Towsley would make the move to the inside of Ricky Duzlak, trying to take the number 1 spot away. Cars would be on the move, including your top 2 point getters, Robbie Speed and Frank Twing, and the 143 of Rob Yetman as well. As now Nick Hill Jr. going to try to make his way past Duzlak for the number 2 spot. Rob Yetman getting in there along with the 315 of John Ruthier as well, as they were all close quarter racing here as we head towards the middle portion of this feature event. Frank Twing and Robbie Speed make a little bit of contact down the back straightaway as they're all trying to get up to the number 1 spot as Towsley had them covered for the time being. Meanwhile, as they come off of turn number 4, Frank Twing would lose something underneath the 317, showing a lot of smoke and go into the inside Jersey barrier. Nick Hilt would slow as well, as that would be a tough break for Frank Twing as he would lose a lot of points in the battle in this one. Off of the restart, Chuck Towsley would look to try to have him covered, but he would have Rob Yetman now on his back bumper. Jonathan Ruthier trying to get back in as well as he would crack into the top 5. One last shot for Yetman on the final lap as he go to the inside, but it would be Chuck Towsley picking up the victory in the Pro Stock feature event. Chuck Towsley grabbing the win, Rob Yetman finishing second, Robbie Speed third, Nick Hilt fourth, and John Ruthier would round out the top 5. Did I not tell you earlier in the show that turn 1 and 2 is Calamity Corner at this speedway? We head to the sportsman feature at Orange County Fair Speedway now, as it would be Dion Naples as your pole sitter in this one, but it would not take long for the number 44 machine of Brian Crummell to get right up on the back bumper. He looked to the inside lane in turn number 3 and 4, and then he grabbed the lead in turn number 1 and 2, as Crummell would be your race leader here in the early going. Dion Naples would have a little trouble up in turn number 3 as he would go around to the outside wall. That would bring out the caution and put LJ Lombardo right next to the 44 machine. Meanwhile, off of the restart, a lot of 3-wide action towards the back of the field. Quick caution down the back straightaway would come out with just 1 lap to go. However, it wouldn't be enough as Brian Crummell picks up another win down on the hard clay. Brian Crummell picking up the victory, LJ Lombardo finishing second, Jesse Levy third, Dom Roselli Jr. fourth, and Matt Janiak would round out the top 5. Matt Burke would grab the win, and the rookie sportsman in the street stocks would go to Emerson Cargan. Performance, quality, service. That's DMC Racing Products. Hundreds of name brand parts, competitive prices. That's DMC. DMC Racing Products, race to win. Eddie Thompson would be your pole sitter in the 25-lap Pro Stock feature event at Albany-Saratoga. Rob Yetman and Kenny Martin separated by just 3 points going into the event as they look to make their way up and click off a few more points as we head towards championship weekend. Early in the event, Fast Eddie Thompson and Rob Langeman side-by-side. Walt Brownell in there as well, as caution will come out for the 83C of Bernie Companion, as that would re-rack the field, and that would give the advantage to Byron Westcott as he looked to make his way up through the field on the outside lane. Rob Yetman doing what he can to try to shave off a few more points here as he'd go 3 wide with Westcott and Brownell down the back straightaway, with Westcott becoming the benefactor in that one, moving into the number 2 spot. After a little bit of contact, Rob Yetman would get a little out of shape, and then the hood would end up popping up on the 7, depleting his vision as they come off of turn number 4. Yetman doing a masterful job for a couple laps despite having trouble seeing in the cockpit of that number 7 machine, but eventually the caution will come out on the speedway and he would have to get attention from his crew. Off of the restart, Byron Westcott would make a push for the race lead as he'd go to the outside of Fast Eddie Thompson for the number 1 spot, and he would take it away off of turn number 4, and he would be your new race leader. Meanwhile, Kenny Martin up into the top 5, looking to do what he can here in this one, and Kim Duell would now slide into the number 2 spot after a miscue by Eddie Thompson. Kim Duell looking to run down the 00 of Westcott as they come off of turn number 4 for the final time. I don't know about you, but it's too close to call. But it would be Kim Duell picking up the win by, I'm not even going to guess how close that was. Byron Westcott coming home in the number 2 spot. Third was Fast Eddie Thompson. Fourth, Kenny Martin, and Rob Yetman battling all the way back for a top 5, setting up a 1-point battle this Friday night. Chris Johnson, not to be confused with the Jets running back, would pick up the win in the sportsman. Limited sportsman would go to Ron Casey, and the street stocks would go to Randy Miller. Late model feature event at the Fulton Speedway would see Shane Tenace with the early lead. Sean Beardsley looking to try to make his way up through the field as he'll move to the outside lane of Tenace, and he'd take the race lead away. However, on the next lap, Tenace would be running with A.J. Kingsley. They would come together. Tenace would keep going, but Kingsley would be spun in just to the inside up the front straightaway as that would bring out the caution. That would put Tim Sears Jr. right on the back bumper of Beardsley. He looked to slide underneath him. He pushed to the outside. Beardsley with a chance to come back, but at the line, it would be Tim Sears Jr. grabbing the victory. Sears picking up the win. Sean Beardsley would finish in second, Johnny Hill third, Dave Talbot fourth, and Ryan Halliday rounding out your top 5. Other winners on the night would be Greg Kimball in the Sportsman. 305 sprints going to John Cunningham. Hayden Burdick winning Novice Sportsman number 1. Riley Gill in Novice Sportsman number 2. The Mod Light Open winner would be Doug Williams. Mod Light Stock Spec would go to Jim Bogut. And Chuck Powalczyk would take the win in the 4 cylinders. The always entertaining Pure Stock number 3 feature at the Lebanon Valley Speedway would get started with Lou Ganser up at the front of the field as he would take the early race lead. Clifford Booth would make a move to the inside, looking to take the lead away on the inside. Doug Olds and Al Relier right there as well in the early going of this one, as Relier would look to move to the outside of Booth. Yellow will come out on the speedway. Number of cars getting together. You see Jeff Meltz up into the wall. Ray Hall Sr. having a little bit of a problem as well. Off of the restart, it would be Ganser back out at the front of the field, and now Big Ed Hatch would make his way into the top 2 as he would slide into the number 2 position. Relier right there trying to battle with him, trying to get the spot back on the outside, but Hatch would slide back in front of him. Meanwhile, Clifford Booth and Doug Olds will come together off of turn number 2 as they're running hard for position down the back straightaway. And now making his way up as Ed Hatch would slide right up in front of Lou Ganser and take the lead away off of turn number 4 as he was en route to try to find another victory. Ganser, running out of time, would move back and try to close the gap on the inside lane of Hatch as the top 5 continued to run together as Gary O'Brien tried to make his way up, but this would all be behind Big Ed Hatch, and he would pick up another win in pure stock action at the Valley. Big Ed Hatch picking up the win. Lou Ganser would finish in second, Al Relier third, Doug Olds fourth, and Jeff Meltz Sr. would round out the top 5. Other winners on the night, Frank Orr III would get the win in the small blocks. Jason Meltz and David Olds would pick up your other pure stock victories, and your 4-cylinder winners in the single cam, it was Victoria Boyles, and Chris Vandeput put on an entertaining show to pick up the win in the dual cam feature event. The Choices 301 program takes a multifaceted approach aimed at educating the public about the realities and dangers of what can happen when bad decisions are made inside a motor vehicle. Don't hesitate to designate.
Keith, for this season you're running the Tour. This is not something you've done in the past. How is this changing up your schedule each and every week?
It's definitely going to make it slightly more hectic. I mean, it's some weeks there's no series races, and then there's a couple weeks coming up at the end of this month and next month we're going to have 4 or 5 races a week. So it's definitely going to be more workload with everybody. We're just going to have to try to keep up with it, and hopefully things go halfway decent and we can keep on it. But
now, what gave you the idea to run the Tour this season?
We've done a handful of shows every year for the last couple of years. We've always gone to Rolling Wheels and certain other tracks. I've always done Super Dirt Week, Eastern States, etc. We've always had a lot of fun getting out, trying new tracks, and doing something different. So before I get too old and too involved in the business and stuff, we decided to try to do it for a year or two, and hopefully things go well, and we just give it a shot and see what happens. Experience doesn't hurt.
Now, as far as regular weekend racing goes, you're still at Albany-Saratoga and Lebanon Valley on the weekend. How's your season going so far in that?
It's going all right. We'd like to have it going a little bit better. I mean, the Valley, the finishes aren't right where we want to be necessarily. We're not really running quite up to par what we think we should be, so we're continuing to work on that, but overall all right. And Albany's been going good. We've got a handful of top 3s or 5s and pretty much top 10 most of the other races. So, just keep at it, and hopefully we can be there at the end.
Now, this team has been a family team since the beginning. How does running with your family each and every week feel for you?
Feels pretty good. I mean, it's definitely good to have the family involved. It's good to have a little bit of experience as far as driving goes with my father and stuff. I mean, things have changed a little bit, but the technique and stuff is still kind of there. So it's a little bit helpful to have him, and he's always trying to look out for the best interest and stuff. So it's definitely positive.
It's now time for this week's NISCA Performer of the Week. With his exciting victory in pro stock fashion at Albany-Saratoga, it will be Kim Duell this week. Duell is now eligible for the Performer of the Year award given out at the end of the season. That's all for this week's show. For the latest news, results, and photos, check out Race Pro Weekly online, www.raceproweekly.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. So for myself, Matt Knowles, Fast Eddie, Scott Morlock, Amber Chalmers, Dave Del Sandro, and everyone that helps put Race Pro Weekly together, thank you for watching this week's episode, and we'll see you next time.